All right, hello, Aiden watching this video. We're going to do the first half of this today. So this is two days for this section. 3, 2. We have statements that we're going to tell whether they're true or false. We have conditionals. We have biconditionals. We're not going to get to biconditionals today. We're going to do statements and conditionals, and then we'll talk about the other ones tomorrow, okay? So we're talking about logic. We start with statements. So, Ethan is a junior. That's a statement. And then we can tell whether that is true or false by associating a truth value to it, okay? So, Ethan is a junior. That is true?
Yes.
True, that is true, okay? So, starting with statements, identifying a truth value. Then, we have something called a negation, okay? So, I'm going to write that statement down. Ethan is a junior. I'm just going to paraphrase. Ethan is a junior. That's my statement, okay? What they're going to do is they're going to assign variables to these statements, okay? So we can just call that statement P, okay? Or R or S or something like that, right? Statement P says Ethan is a junior. That we've determined is true, okay? When they do a negation, that means like make it negative, okay? Which looks like this. This is the symbol that we'll use. We call that not P. Not P. Okay? When you're negating it, you put a little squiggle in front of it. It kind of looks like a negative symbol, but kind of, yeah, it's a squiggle. And we call that not P, okay? If Ethan is a junior, is my statement P, what would not P look like? Ethan is, now he could be a sophomore, he could be a freshman, he could be a second grader, right? So what would be the easiest way to say that? Ethan is not a junior, right? Rather than list all of the things that Ethan is not, we would just say Ethan is not a junior, okay? Now, Ethan is not a junior. Does that stay true or does that become false now? Ethan is not a junior. Now it's false. Usually what will happen in the majority of times, when you negate it, it will switch from true to false or vice versa, right? When you put a not in front of it, it will switch the sign, okay? Got it? All right, so that is a statement. We'll assign a variable to it. It has a truth value, and we negate it by putting not in front of whatever part of the sentence. Got it? Okay, then we're going to talk about compound statements. So, adding to this, I would have, like, let's say Ethan is a junior and Ethan is a boy, right? So I have two statements now. Now I have to decide Ethan is a junior and Ethan is a boy. Is that whole thing true or false? Ethan is a junior and Ethan is a boy. Delaney says false. That is true, right? Okay. What happens if I say Ethan is a junior and Ethan is a girl?
True. False.
Maybe I shouldn't use that. Ethan, you don't put, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Ethan is a junior and Ethan is a girl. False. What happens when we get to ors though? Ethan is a junior or Ethan is a girl.
Choose one of them. Let me tell you.
Is Ethan a junior or a girl?
A junior.
He's a junior, so that whole thing is yes. That's true, right? Ethan is either a junior or a girl. He's a junior, he's not a girl, right? Does that make sense? Okay? Let me switch it around. Let's say Ethan is a boy or Ethan is a freshman. Is that true or false? That he's either a boy or a freshman?
True.
That's true, right? Okay? So when we get to ands and ors, you've got to be careful, all right? Let's do example 1. So we have statements, and we want to write, there's two parts to this. Write a compound statement, that's number 1, and then find the truth value, that's number 2. So whether it's true or false, okay? All right, let's just look at our statements to begin with. We're talking about this shape right here. That is a square, that's a square. P says the figure is a trapezoid, true or false?
False.
False, okay? Now, if I was to talk about not P, what would statement not P say? The figure is not a trapezoid. True or false?
True.
Not P would be true, right? The figure is not a trapezoid. That's true, right? Okay, the figure is a trapezoid. False. The figure is not a trapezoid. True. Okay, Q says the figure has 4 congruent sides. True or false?
True.
True. If we were to do not Q, that would say the figure does not. I'll say figure does not have 4 congruent sides. I'm going to use that symbol. Okay? True or false? The figure does not have 4 congruent sides. False, because it does, right? Okay? The figure has 4 right angles. True. Okay? Not R would say the figure does not have 4 right angles. Okay? So now, if we're looking at P and R together, we said P was false and R was true. So what we're doing is we are saying when we do and, are you listening to this? Shh. When we're doing and, we look at P and we say, is this one and this one true? Yes or no? Is this one and this one true? No, so the whole thing is false. Right? That one and that one. Okay? Now what if I said P or R? P was false, R was true. Is this one or this one true? Yes or no? Yes, so that is true. Does that make sense? Okay? So, writing out, that was step number 1. Write a compound statement. We have to write it out. P and R says the figure is a trapezoid and the figure has 4 right angles. So is it true that the figure is a trapezoid and it has 4 right angles? It has 4 right angles, but it's not a trapezoid, so the whole thing is false. Although R is true, P is false. So P and R is false. Do you see how this works? Okay, it's a lot of statements to go over. All right, now, rather than writing the word and, they'll use this symbol. This little symbol, the little tent, he means and because he looks like an A. You see that? Okay. Do you know what symbol they use for or? I'm going to write that down to the side. This guy means A, or this guy means and. Or is going to be a V, right? A is and, V is or. So if they use those symbols, that's how that works. Got it? Okay. This one says not P and Q. Okay? Not P said the figure is not a trapezoid. That's what not P said. The figure is not a trapezoid. And Q says the figure, let's see, the figure has 4 congruent sides. Okay? Was not P, was that true or false? Not P. He was true. Q was true or false? True. Okay, so now we're looking at and. So I'm going to circle this. Is this one and this one true? Yes or no? Yes, so the whole thing is true. Got it? This one and this one are true. So the whole thing is true. Got it. All right? The figure is not a trapezoid and the figure has 4 congruent sides. Both not P and Q are true, so not P and Q is true. Okay? Got it? Should we do another one of those? Oh, let's do this one right here. Example 2. Go to the next page. Example 2. Now we've got a diagram. All right, referring to this diagram, here we have statement P says angle ABC. ABC is this little one and CBD, which is this bigger one. Those 2 angles are complementary angles.
False.
It is, that's true. What does complementary mean?
Add up to be 90.
Add up to be 90. Does this small angle and this big angle add up to be 90? No, so that guy is false. So I'm going to put false next to P. Okay? All right, next. It says those 2 angles, those same angles, this little guy and this one, are vertical angles.
No.
What are vertical angles?
Across from each other.
Across from each other. These are vertical angles. Are they across from each other?
No.
False. Okay? All right, the last one says that AB, just this little segment right here, is, what does this symbol mean? Congruent to BD, right? AB and BD, those 2 are the same as each other. How do we know that? The little tick marks. So that is true. We know that those 2 things are true. Okay? All right. So here we go. They want us to find, they want us to find this thing right here. P, this V means or, not R. P or not R. Okay? All right, so P. Was P true or false? False. Okay? R was true. So not R will be false. So looking at this, we're talking about or here. What are you boys doing? Shh. Or is this guy or this guy true? No. So the whole thing is false. You see how that works? Yeah. Okay. Okay. P or not R is false because P is false and R not R is false. Okay? Do I want to do this with you?
No.
I think you should do all the homework with us.
No, we'll skip that. Well, okay. We're gonna do this part. I was gonna do something else with you, but I'm gonna wait. Okay? Conditionals. Next thing. A conditional statement. Every conditional statement is written in if-then form. And you have a hypothesis and you have a conclusion. The hypothesis is the if part, the then part is the conclusion. So like if you clean your room, then you can go do what you want on the weekend, right? If this happens, then something else will happen. Hypothesis, conclusion. So here's the example that they use. If it rains, that's the hypothesis. Then the parade will be canceled. Conclusion. Got it? Like that's not that hard to figure out. Until they do this. The parade will, write this down. The parade will be canceled if it rains. Okay, what's the hypothesis? The hypothesis is not the first part. It's the hypothesis is always the if. Even if they put that at the end of the sentence, that's still your hypothesis. They're just trying to write it first. Hypothesis is always the if this part happens. The conclusion is the parade will be canceled. That's still C. Okay, so don't go by what order it is in the sentence. Go by the if part is the hypothesis, the then part is the conclusion. Right? Does that make sense? Clear as mud? Okay, now we're going to assume that this is true. If it rains, then the parade will be canceled. We're going to say that that is a true statement because that's how they're going to organize this. If it rains, then the parade will be canceled. We're going to say that that's true. This is something called a conditional equation or a conditional statement. Condition means under this condition. If this happens, then this happens. That's my conditional. Okay? Now, we're going to go back to the whole PQ thing. We're going to say P is the hypothesis. If it rains, that's the P part. The Q part is then the parade will be canceled. Okay, now we're going to do something called the inverse. Okay, so the blah, blah, blah. The conditional statement went P, then Q. If P, then Q. That's how the conditional statement works. Okay, now if I do the converse means the flipperoo of that. So converse is going to go Q, then P. If Q, then P. We're going to flip those statements around. If Q, then P. All right, so that means I'm going to switch it around. I'm going to say if the parade is canceled, then it has rained. Right? This is Q, this is P. All right, now we have to decide if that's true or not. If the parade is canceled, does that mean it rained? Not necessarily. Why not? Chloe said this morning, well, the whole town could have burned down. Like, wow, that's getting really extreme. Okay, thanks, Chloe. So false. Like something else could have happened that caused the parade to not take place, right? Just because it's canceled doesn't necessarily mean it rained. So false on that case. Okay? All right, let's go to this one. The next one is something called the inverse, okay? The inverse stays the PQ, so PQ, except it's not P and not Q. Not P, not Q. So we're putting not in front of it, all right? So this one says, if it does not rain, then the parade will not be canceled. If it doesn't rain, the parade won't be canceled. True or false? If it's not raining, the parade won't be canceled.
False.
Why?
Something else could happen.
Because it could still be canceled due to something else, right? If it's not raining, that doesn't necessarily mean the parade won't be canceled, right? It could be canceled for another reason, okay? All right, and then the last one goes not Q, and not P. It does like every combination you could have with the nots and the P's and the Q's and stuff, right? And this is something called the contrapositive. Contrapositive, okay? So let's talk through that one. This is not Q and then not P. If the parade is not canceled, that means it did not rain.
Yes.
That's true. If the parade is not canceled, the parade's still going to go on. Does that mean that there's no rain? Yes, because we said that if it rains, the parade's going to be canceled, right? So that's true. So we have to think through each one and figure out how that works. Got it?
But the parade's
Okay.
not
Okay.
Cancel.
canceled. Yeah.
Just cancel the parade.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Down here at the bottom corner, here's your cheat sheet. You have your first conditional equation or conditional statement. Your first conditional statement. Then we have the converse. Then we have the inverse. Then we have the contrapositive. Write this down in the bottom corner. This is the last thing that we're going to do before we stop. The conditional, the converse, the inverse, the contrapositive. Okay? The conditional goes if
Grades 9 through 12,
P,
if you've not already done so, please vote for homecoming, king and queen.
then Q.
That needs to be done by the end of the day today.
If P, then Q. Your conditional is your original statement. If P, then Q. If P, then Q. Okay? The converse flips those around. So he goes, if Q, then P. You just flip them around. Instead of if it rains, the parade will be canceled, that if the parade is canceled, then it will rain. Or then it has rained. Alright? Now, I put a little arrow going to the first and the third one. And I put a little arrow going from the second to the fourth one. Because the order stays the same. So the inverse is PQ. Just like conditional, but it's not in front of each one. Right? So this one and this one are similar. It's just you put knots in front of each one. Okay? The contrapositive goes with the converse. What's he look like? Not Q, not P. Right? So he looks just like the second one. That's the contrapositive. So that is every combination that we can have of these statements. If this happens, then this happens. Flip it around. If this doesn't happen, this doesn't happen. Flip it around. Right? Okay, that's how that works. All right. For homework, start on these. Blah. That was a lot. Start on. I didn't write these at the top. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 19. So 2 through 16, evens, and 19. 2 through 16, evens, and 19.